There's an island in Japan where almost nobody retires, nobody panics about money, and people routinely live past 100. Scientists have studied that place for decades trying to figure out why. It's not the diet, it's not the weather. It's a single word that reshapes how these people think about work, purpose, and yes, their bank accounts. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that word means, and more importantly, how to use it to fix your finances for good. Hey, welcome back. Quick thing before we dive in. If you like videos that connect money with mindset and give you something you can actually apply this week, go ahead and hit subscribe. And if this hooks you in the first minute, a like helps more than you'd think. All right, let's get into it. The word is Ikigai. It comes from Okinawa, sometimes called the land of immortals, because of how many people there live long, active, genuinely happy lives. Break the word apart, and you get Iki, which means life, and Gai, which means value or worth. Put together, it roughly translates to the reason you get up in the morning. Now, I know that sounds like something printed on a throw pillow at a home decor store, but stick with me, because this isn't just a feel-good idea. It's backed by actual research. People who report having a strong sense of purpose show up to 50% lower risk of developing dementia or cognitive decline later in life. On average, they live about 7 years longer than people who don't have that clear sense of purpose, and they show significantly lower rates of heart disease and depression. So this isn't some vague spiritual concept. It's a measurable biological advantage. And here's a statistic that connects this directly to money. Some studies suggest only around 30% of working adults actually have a concrete, specific vision of their own future. Not a vague dream, an actual detailed picture of where they're headed. That number matters, because without a clear picture of the destination, it's almost impossible to build a financial plan that means anything. You end up saving for someday instead of saving for something real. Ikigai forces that vision to become specific. And here's the part most people miss entirely. Ikigai isn't just about how you spend your Sunday afternoons. It's directly tied to how you make, spend, and think about money. Once you see that connection, you genuinely can't unsee it. Traditionally, Ikigai sits at the intersection of four things. First, what you love, the stuff that genuinely excites you, where you lose track of time because you're so absorbed in it, sometimes called being in a state of flow. Second, what you're good at, your actual skills and strengths, the things people naturally come to you for. Third, what the world needs, some kind of real contribution. And this doesn't have to be some huge global mission. It can be as local as helping your neighborhood, your workplace, or your own family. And fourth, and this is the one most self-help content conveniently skips over, what you can actually get paid for. That fourth pillar is where most just follow your passion advice quietly falls apart, because passion without a paycheck eventually turns into a very expensive hobby. Here's what happens when one of these four pieces goes missing. And honestly, once you hear this, you'll probably recognize yourself in at least one of these. If you've got the love, the skill, and the world's need, but no way to get paid, you end up delighted and fulfilled, but broke, which is basically the classic starving artist trap. If you've got the skill, the market need, and the paycheck, but no love for the work, you end up comfortable but hollow, showing up every day, feeling like something's quietly missing, even though on paper your life looks fine. If you've got the love, the need, and the paycheck, but you're not actually good at it yet, you get excitement mixed with constant anxiety, because deep down, you know you're winging it, and it could fall apart. and if you've got the love, the skill, and the paycheck. But the world doesn't actually need what you're offering. You get personal satisfaction, paired with a nagging feeling of uselessness, like you're shouting into a void. Financial stability isn't a bonus feature bolted onto purpose. It's one quarter of the whole equation, sitting right alongside passion, talent, and contribution. Miss it, and the other three pillars start to crack under pressure, no matter how noble or exciting the work is. Now let's talk about money specifically, because Ikigai, without financial structure, is just a nice feeling with no engine behind it. This is where Japanese minimalist thinking comes in. There's a distinction worth making here. Being cheap and being financially intelligent are not the same thing. Being cheap means restricting yourself out of fear, constantly telling yourself no. Being financially intelligent means directing your money on purpose, with intention behind every choice. A lot of impulse spending is really just noise, an attempt to fill some emotional gap with a purchase that has nothing to do with what you actually value. A cluttered house, as one Japanese finance writer puts it, usually reflects a cluttered, worried mind. One simple habit that pairs well with this mindset is setting aside a short block of time, maybe once a week, just to review your spending without judging yourself for it. Not to punish, just to notice patterns. This traditional Japanese household accounting practice is sometimes called kakibo, and the entire point is awareness before optimization. On top of that reflection habit, one practical framework that pairs beautifully with Ikigai is a simple system. 3 jars. Jar 1 is necessity, roughly 50% of your income, covering your basic living costs, housing, food, and your safety net. Jar 2 is growth, around 30%. And this is the one people neglect the most. It's for investing in yourself, your education, your skills, and your future income streams. Think of it as the bridge to the version of you that you're actively trying to become. Jar 3 is generosity, about 20%, set aside for meaningful experiences and for helping other people, which, by the way, directly feeds that what the world needs pillar we just talked about a minute ago. Here's the quiet truth buried in this system. The less you actually need to feel happy, the wealthier you effectively become, because your money stops leaking out to fill gaps it was never meant to fill. That's not a trick or a hack, it's just math applied to psychology. Let's make this concrete with a real example, because theory is nice, but a story actually sticks in your head. Think about a doctor working emergency medicine. He's got the skill, obviously. The world clearly needs emergency doctors, and the paycheck is solid. On paper, he's got 3 out of 4 pillars locked in tight. But the 3 a.m. shifts, the constant burnout, the schedule that quietly eats his entire personal life, drained his love pillar down to almost nothing over time. So he starts a blog on the side, purely because he's passionate about personal finance, and he keeps noticing how many of his fellow doctors are drowning in debt despite 6-figure salaries. That's not a coincidence, by the way. It turns out a huge number of physicians never actually get any real financial education during their entire medical training. So the blog wasn't just a hobby. It filled a real gap the world genuinely needed filled. He poured the profits back into that project instead of spending them on lifestyle upgrades, basically running his own version of that growth jar, treating the reinvestment as fuel rather than a paycheck to cash out immediately. Over time, that blog grew into a full financial education platform for medical professionals across the country. And the final piece, the one people almost always skip, is delegation. Instead of trying to do everything himself, writing, editing, marketing, accounting. He started handing off the tasks other people were simply better at, so he could stay locked into the one part of the work only he could do well. That's the real end stage of financial ikigai. It's not do everything you love all by yourself forever. It's structure your money and your time so you can keep doing the specific thing only you can do at the highest level for as long as possible. This same pattern shows up outside medicine too. Someone earning a steady salary but carrying real debt and zero savings can go through the exact same process. Identify a genuine skill. Notice a real market gap. Redirect income deliberately instead of letting it disappear. And within a few years, move from instability to an actual investing habit and a functioning emergency fund. The industry changes. The mechanism doesn't. Here's something people consistently underestimate about purpose. It acts like a shock absorber for your entire financial life. There's an old Japanese saying, fall down 7 times, get up 8. And that mindset shows up constantly in how Okinawans handle both hardship and money. When you have a genuinely clear reason for what you're doing, market crashes hit differently. Career transitions hit differently. You're not just white-knuckling through a recession, hoping your portfolio magically recovers. You're anchored to something that simply doesn't move at the same speed as the market. There's also a social layer worth mentioning here, something called a moai, which is essentially a small, lasting support group of people who check in on each other, share resources, and hold each other accountable over decades, not just weeks. Financial resilience in these communities isn't purely an individual project. It's reinforced by people around you who share similar values. This lines up with what recent surveys on financial motivation actually show. When researchers ask people what really drives their money decisions, the top answers usually aren't things like get rich or beat the market. They're things like providing for family, achieving independence, and building a sense of security, values-based reasons, not purely numerical ones. Younger adults, in particular, tend to rank these purpose-driven motivators even higher than older generations. That's Ikigai showing up in a spreadsheet, even if nobody in the room calls it that. And there's a cultural detail worth mentioning too. In Okinawa, retirement, in the Western sense of stopping completely and doing nothing, barely exists as a concept. People stay useful, stay engaged, and keep contributing in ways that use their actual skills well into their 80s and 90s. That ongoing sense of usefulness is a massive piece of why their mental health holds up so well over decades. Translate that into financial planning, and you get a genuinely different question than, how much money do I need to retire? The better question becomes, what am I building toward? And how does my money get me there without forcing me to fully disengage from anything meaningful? So how do you actually start applying any of this instead of just nodding along and forgetting it by tomorrow? First step, run an honest audit using that 3-jar framework. Look at where your money is actually going right now, not where you assume it's going. If your growth jar, that 30% meant for investing in yourself and your future, is basically empty because everything gets swallowed by necessity or by random spending, that's your first red flag. Without that jar funded, you'll never reach the refinement and delegation stage we just talked about with the doctor example, because you'll never have the resources to take a calculated risk or build something meaningful on the side. Second step, get specific about your own 4 pillars, on paper, not just in your head. Write down what you're actually good at, in plain terms, not vague stuff like, I'm creative, but specific, marketable skills someone would pay for. Then ask yourself honestly, what problem in the world, even a small local one, those skills could realistically solve. That intersection, real skill plus real need, is usually where the paycheck is hiding, even if you can't quite see it yet. Third, stop treating money like it's separate from purpose, as if one belongs to accountants and the other belongs to dreamers. Every dollar you spend is basically a vote for the kind of life you're actively building. Spend on friction and noise, and you'll feel poorer no matter your salary, no matter how many zeros are in it. Spend in line with what actually matters to you, and suddenly a modest income starts to genuinely feel like enough. None of these three steps require a financial advisor, a spreadsheet degree, or some perfect 5-year plan. They just require honesty about where your money currently goes and a small, consistent redirection toward the pillars you're actually missing. Ikigai doesn't ask for a dramatic overhaul overnight. It asks for a slightly different decision each week, repeated long enough that it eventually reshapes the whole picture. Before we wrap up, I want to clear up the most common misunderstanding about Ikigai, because it trips up almost everyone the first time they hear about it. People assume Ikigai means quitting your stable job tomorrow to chase whatever you're passionate about. No plan, no safety net, just vibes. That's not Ikigai. That's just a risky bet dressed up in a nicer word. Real Ikigai is patient. It's the doctor keeping his day job while the blog grows quietly in the background. It's funding the growth jar for months, sometimes years, before making any big move. The 4 pillars aren't something you flip like a switch. They're something you slowly shift the weight between over time, while your bills still get paid along the way. Anyone selling you an overnight transformation into a life of pure purpose is skipping the part where financial viability actually takes real work and real patience to build. Ikigai was never meant to be some static destination you arrive at once and then relax forever. It's an ongoing negotiation between who you are and how you interact with money, work, and time, one that keeps shifting as you grow. The goal isn't to eliminate financial stress completely. That's probably unrealistic for most people on the planet. The real goal is to stop treating your finances like a separate boring chore and start treating them as the actual engine behind your purpose. Get that alignment right, even partially, even imperfectly, and your relationship with money changes permanently. If this video gave you something to actually think about, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely tells the algorithm to show this to someone else out there who needs to hear it. And if you want more videos that connect money to how you actually think and live, go ahead and subscribe, because that's exactly what this channel is built around. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.